session. I'm going to turn this over to Naomi Kennedy.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the Candidates Forum for House Districts 66 and 67. My name is Naomi Kennedy. I am with the League of Women Voters of Rhode Island. The League of Women Voters is a grassroots education and advocacy organization. We conduct voter registration drives and candidate forums or debates like this one. We also study issues, reach consensus positions on those issues, and then lobby to promote those positions. The League is nonpartisan. We never endorse any candidate or party. We welcome new members, both men and women. Our sponsors for this evening are the League of Women Voters of Rhode Island and the East Bay Media Group, which publishes local papers throughout the East Bay. The Barrington Times is one such paper. Our moderator for tonight's forum is Scott Pickering, General Manager of the East Bay Media Group. Tonight we'll have two forums. The first will involve the candidates for House District 66, Jennifer Boylan and Samuel Reed. The second forum will be for those running for House District 67, Scott Fuller and Jason Knight. In each forum, the moderator will be selecting 6 to 8 questions from those submitted by the public. The order for speaking has been pre-selected. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer all questions asked. The order of speaking will rotate for each question. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an introductory opening statement, for an answer to each question, and for a closing statement. If additional time is desired, he or she may use one of 6 wildcard times of 30 seconds each to either elaborate on their answers or to lengthen their opening or closing statements. The timing of the forum will be done by our 2 timers, Donnie McGee and Joanne DeVoe. When a speaker has only 15 seconds left of his or her time, the timers will hold up a yellow sign. When time is up, a red sign is raised. When the speaker sees the red sign, he or she can finish the sentence, but if another sentence is started, a wild card will be charged. Susan Esther will keep track of how many wild cards have been used by each candidate. The forum is being viewed in real time by our Zoom audience. It is also being recorded and may be seen up to Election Day by going to the League's website, www.LWVRI.org, up to the date of elections, the day before elections, November 7th. Before we begin, I would like to introduce, if June Speakman, who is a candidate for House District 68, appears after this forum, she will be introduced, but will not speak because her candidate chose not to. I am now turning over the forum to Scott.
All right, thank you, Naomi, and welcome back to the audience. So I'd just like to set the scene so everyone understands where we are. So in what you're looking at, we are in a conference room at the Barrington Public Library. We are using a piece of equipment called the OWL. It's a 360-degree camera, which is why at the top of your screen, you can see around the room, everyone who's here. And as candidates and myself speak, you'll see them pop up into individual panels and the camera will find them. So we don't have a live audience with us. You're the live audience. We're here in a conference room and we're glad you're here with us. So we're gonna get started. We predetermined the order for, and this is for House District 66. First to speak will be Jennifer Boylan, Democrat, and we begin with you.
Great, thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to East Bay Media for holding this event. My name is Jennifer Boylan, and I'm the Democrat running to be the state rep for House District 66, Riverside and Barrington. I have a strong understanding of our community and a track record for collaboration and for making change. As an advocate for common sense gun laws with Moms Demand Action for the past decade, I have helped to pass 9 strong gun safety laws right here in Rhode Island. I am a mother, and my husband and I have raised our children in Barrington since 2005. My first career spanned 13 years as an environmental scientist. I left that career to help my husband run a small business, and I am personally aware of the role that small businesses play in our economy. I want to be a state rep so I can continue to work on issues critical to Rhode Island's future, like climate change, reproductive rights, and supporting small businesses. I am ready to work hard for Riverside and Barrington.
Thank you. And we also have with us Sam Reed, independent. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to start off by wishing Jennifer a good evening, and I'd like to extend my appreciation to the League of Women's Voters for hosting this forum, to Scott Pickering, our moderator, and to all those who are listening in. My family has resided in Barrington for 5 generations, and we are proud to call it home. My great-great-grandfather worked in the local brickyard decades ago, and my family operated a small business in town for many years. Through this, I feel a deep connection to the community. And I care about the future of this community because my nieces and nephew are the 6th generation growing up here today. I currently serve as the secretary of the board for the Rhode Island Small Business Coalition, and I've been working for the coalition for the past 2 years. I live and breathe small business every day at my current position as a department manager for a local digital marketing agency. I chose to run out of a true passion for serving this community, and I feel that as an independent voice for District 66, I can offer a fresh perspective and help bridge the divisiveness. I hope that after tonight, I can earn your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. We're going to move to a period of question and answer now. Ms. Boylan, first, we'll begin with you with the first question. As if you've ever watched any of these, I'd like to start easy, get you warmed up. So this may give you a chance to repeat some of the things you said in your opening. Why are you running for this seat? What specific things do you hope to accomplish if elected?
Big question. So I will say that I didn't used to really care too much for politics, and I didn't really pay much attention to them. But everything for me changed 10 years ago when the Sandy Hook school shooting happened. I was devastated by that event, and I knew that if it could happen in Newtown, it could happen in Barrington, it could happen in any community here in Rhode Island or in America. So I got to work studying our gun laws because I needed to understand why did this happen and how can I make sure that it doesn't happen again. What I learned from studying our gun laws was how incredibly weak they were, and I felt incredibly responsible. How did this happen on my watch? How did our society allow us to get to this place? As a mother, I felt like I needed to protect my children, and I've been going to the State House for the past 10 years, attending every gun bill hearing since. I, along the way, have passed 3 really strong gun laws, and I'm ready to pivot from advocacy to lawmaking for a better Rhode Island. Thank
you. Mr. Reed, same question. Why are you running for this seat? What specific things do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, as many know, I've always had a true passion for serving this community. And I feel that as an independent, I can minimize the polarization that we find ourselves in today. Some of the specifics, I believe small business is the backbone of our economy. And it is also my passion to help small businesses grow. And I hope to do that at the State House. I also aim to make Rhode Island more affordable. It truly is a great place to live and call home. And there's a lot that can be done to make it a better place to live.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move to a new question. Mr. Reed, begins with you. What is your outside assessment of how the Rhode Island General Assembly functions? What would you like to change if you move from the outside to the inside?
This is a great question. And it's one that I've been asked a lot while walking and by family and friends and all those wondering why I'm running. I look at the State House and I see experienced people who've been there for quite some time, but it's an experience that's no longer good for the public. There's a lot we need to get done in this state, and I think having a fresh perspective, new minds, independent voices will allow us to accomplish that. I like to say the tired way of doing politics in this state, it's no longer working, and we need fresh voices, new minds, some younger blood in order to really get change accomplished and kind of make some progression for Rhode Island as a whole.
Ms. Boylan.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What is your outside assessment of how the Rhode Island General Assembly functions? What would you like to change if you move from the outside to the inside?
Well, Okay, so I've been going to the State House as a regular for a decade. So I've seen a lot of change over that time. And I would say earlier on in my attending hearings and sessions at the State House, I think it was a very unfriendly climate. It was not collaborative. The speaker at the time, there was tension in the building, and people, I think, would also even say corruption. And I believe there's no place for corruption in our General Assembly, and people should call it out when they see it and shine a light on it. I have seen over the past 10 years, though, things at the State House improve. There's new culture at this in the House chamber from, I think, a better speaker. And I see that more minorities and women have been elected. People can put forth new ideas up there. And I see it, progress is, slow and steady, but we're going in the right direction and things are improving up there.
Thank you. I lost my place. No, no, you have not answered this question yet, have you?
No,
you did.
he started.
You did, I'm sorry. I have a tracker here and I messed it up. I'm sorry. We're gonna move to a new question. Ms. Boylan starts with you. What are your views on abortion?
So the ability to choose when and if to give birth is fundamental to women's economic success, their educational achievement, and their overall health and well-being. Access to a safe and legal abortion is essential for Rhode Island women. In 2014, I joined the Rhode Island Coalition for Reproductive Justice on behalf of the National Council of Jewish Women, and I fought really hard for the codification of Roe here in Rhode Island. I'm endorsed by Planned Parenthood, and I will fight very hard to champion the Equality in Abortion Coverage Act, which will add abortion coverage for Medicaid recipients, our state's poorest women, and for state employees.
Mr. Reed, same question. What are your views on abortion?
So I'm going to answer this question by actually initially restating my response to the Barrington Times question of the week that's actually in today's paper. I support women's reproductive rights and access to proper health care. Walking the district, I have seen the passion that people hold on both sides of this issue. And I know this issue is going to receive a lot of attention in this upcoming session. So what I'd like people to know is I'll keep an open mind. I'm surprised that the question, wasn't more geared toward state funded abortion for state employees, because I know that's also something that most likely will be legislation in this upcoming session. And what I want to say about that is I think people need to understand that it's going to happen. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it, as it is for state employees. But again, I think, there's passion on both sides, and having an open mind and listening to everyone would be the best path forward for the state.
Okay. Thank you. My new question, Mr. Reed, begins with you. What specific policies do you support, if any, to prevent gun violence in Rhode Island?
Great question. So I actually think congratulations are in order to Jennifer and all those that have worked to make gun safety bills pass in the past sessions. And the way I look at this is, what are the next steps? I think we need to take a look at what didn't happen. First and foremost, further legislation on mental health resources is a must. The safe storage bill didn't pass, and I think we need to bring that back. And I also think we need to take another look at the red flag law, which allows for the temporary removal of firearms if the person poses a significant danger to others. These are all items that we can revisit this session in order to take some immediate steps.
Ms. Boylan.
Okay, so, all Americans and Rhode Islanders deserve to live in a world that is free from senseless gun violence. And the statistics are just appalling. 48,000 Americans died in 2021 from gun violence. Here in Rhode Island, 46 people die in an average year, 165 are wounded by guns, and 2/3 of those are suicides. I spent 10 years, as I mentioned, going to the State House, and I've advocated for better gun laws with Moms Demand Action, and I've gone toe-to-toe with the gun lobby here in Rhode Island. One of the bills that we did pass was a strong red flag law, and I'm super proud of that. It happened right after Parkland. We know that strong gun laws work. There's data, plenty of data, that shows that states with the strongest gun laws have the lowest rates of gun violence. I'm going to use 30 more, please. I'm very proud of the work that I have done in our state to pass 9 gun safety laws over the last decade, but we still have work to do. There are 2 bills that I would prioritize for 2023. We should be requiring that firearms are securely stored when not in possession of their owner. This bill would have implications for reducing both suicides and homicides. There's research that shows that more than half of gun owners do not store their guns securely. The majority of firearms used in school shootings are obtained from the shooter's home, the home of relatives, or the homes of friends. My second priority would be an assault weapons ban. Those are common in mass shootings and make shootings more lethal. May I?
You may.
Okay. I would like to say one other thing. I disagree with the comments that were made on mental health. Our country has the same levels of mental health problems that other countries have. What we have in America is easy access to guns. So I reject that. Mental health, fixing mental health problems will fix gun violence. To me, they're separate.
Yeah, please go right ahead.
I think my statement there, what I meant by that is that there's more things the state can do in regards to mental health in general. I actually, before this forum, I was looking at the General Assembly website, the records under mental health, and noticed that last session, there was 57 bills that didn't pass in regards to mental health, 57. So I think, I was just saying that there's more that can be done. Not so much that there is a direct correlation, but there's certainly an implication.
Okay, thank you. New question. We're actually halfway through our questions, believe it or not. Ms. Boylan, starts with you. What policies will you prioritize to address climate change and climate resiliency?
Okay, so there's no doubt that climate change is happening and Rhode Island needs to adapt, and we need to adapt soon. The state recently passed the Act on Climate, which is a law that makes reductions in greenhouse gas emissions mandatory and enforceable. And we need to take a long-term view of sea level rise and develop solutions. And at this point in time, planning is really key and needs to be prioritized. We need to be prepared to spend money to do things like develop a comprehensive stormwater management plan. We need to think hard about moving or elevating major roads that may be in flood zones. We need to invest in mass transit and alternatives to gas-powered vehicles and associated infrastructure. And we need to support and nurture efforts to add wind and solar energy every step of the way.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, same question.
Thank you. I'm going to take this in an interesting direction. So I'm going to highlight the fact that electric bill rates are increasing. Many are aware from the Public Utilities Commission. And my question is, why do we have a PUC? It seems to be a rubber stamp that every time they ask for rate hike, they get it. We need a PUC that's going to be for the public, and I'm in favor of restructuring the PUC that has more citizen participation. Because as a state, I think we need to press on renewable energy. We're at the mercy of foreign countries, and the only way to bring costs down for Rhode Island taxpayers is to become energy independent. As a small state, we have what it takes to reach energy independence without putting money in the pockets of Rhode Island Energy. Why is it that when they do the right thing, they get rich and then we get poorer? I don't think that should be the case. We can add solar panels to flat roofs. We can add solar panels to all the renovated mill buildings across the state. We can add more wind projects. We can incentivize it for business owners and property owners. Somehow renewable energy has been hijacked by Rhode Island Energy, and it shouldn't come down to the consumer having to pay more.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, next question begins with you. The pandemic has had a detrimental impact on school and student performance. What should the state be doing to bolster the public education system?
Thank you. Yeah, this is a great question. I know around the state, the concern is mounting with school choice, our public schools versus private schools. This is how I look at it. The fact that this is even a question to me is showing that we're not getting the job done. And there was a time where public schools did get the job done, and we need to go back to that. We should take pride in our public schools. Barrington and East Greenwich have been exemplary schools for a long time. And I think we need to build up all of our public schools, and take a look at how education is funded. I believe that's really a large part of the problem. Morale, I would say locally is low, and I know there's a lot many candidates are doing to bring that morale up. But I would say at the state level, morale is low. I mean, there's a lot of public schools that are struggling, and it's really time we take a hard look at what's going on and bring back the pride that Rhode Island had in its public schools.
Ms. Boylan.
So a quality education is a core part of government's mission. All children, regardless of their zip code, deserve access to a quality education. With regard to the low test scores, we know that reading and math test scores have fallen across the entire United States during the pandemic. Our nation reported its sharpest student performance declines in 2 decades. It's also important to remember that 250,000 children lost a parent to COVID, and that gun violence is now the #1 killer of American children. So in Rhode Island, students from every achievement scale struggled, especially students of color, students with individualized learning plans, and students from low-income families. This is a wake-up call for all of us. We must invest in education, resources, and supports. We can do things like bring back free lunch, invest in mental health and special education at schools, invest in after-school programs, switch over to universal pre-K, and fund our schools more equitably.
Thank you. All right, new question. We'll switch directions a little bit. Ms. Boylan. What can Rhode Island do to strengthen its economy? What will you advocate for as a state representative?
So the economy affects us all. As a state rep, I would certainly do everything in my power to help businesses in my district in any way possible. So we have some programs in our state that will help low-income people with energy bills. These programs could be expanded to help middle-class families with their high energy bills that we're expecting this winter. There was recently a cost of living adjustment announced for Social Security that went up over 8%, and our retired state employees here in Rhode Island need something too. I think we should bring back free lunches using ARPA funds statewide. Supporting small businesses is also something that's very important, and I support removing red tape where possible to help entrepreneurs start businesses here in Rhode Island.
Mr. Reed.
Thank you. Yeah, this is possibly my favorite question. So Rhode Island has a narrow income stream. We rely on income tax, sales tax, gambling revenue, and it's not a good tax base. If we encourage small businesses and allow more businesses to be created, we broaden the tax base. However, we're not going to be able to tax our way out of the current economic crisis that the state finds itself in. For instance, we must eliminate the corporate minimum tax to get rid of unnecessary fees for small businesses. That's one thing I will certainly do. I'd also like to digitize and unify our state and municipal permitting process, as well as business regulation, to make it easier for small business owners. And also building upon the state fund for startups and incubating new businesses. One other thing I'd like to point out is that the gas tax is higher in Rhode Island than it is in Massachusetts. So we need to take another look at our taxing structure and some of those hidden costs. And I also believe a lot of these issues start with our infrastructure and logistics. This is one of the major issues in Rhode Island, as many know. And I honestly think in order to solve it, we got to get back to basics. We need good roads, and we need to focus in on the infrastructure and logistics to make Rhode Island an easier place for business.
Thank you. New question, Mr. Reed, begins with you. Why are you a better candidate than your opponent for this seat?
That's a interesting question. I don't believe in. I'm not a person to bash, my opponent or anyone else for that matter. What I feel is that by having an independent voice at the State House, which is very new for Rhode Island, it allows for some real progress and some real change in the way that things are going on. I know that it's widely accepted around the community, and statewide, it's certainly stirring up some dust. I feel that being a voice for you and not a party agenda or not a certain side or any special interests, we really can start to get things done in this state and just make it a better place to live and actually have some good government.
Ms. Boylan, why are you a better candidate for this seat than your opponent?
I think it comes down to experience and my track record. I've been a regular at the State House for a decade. I know how to get things done there. I know how to advocate for something I believe in. I know how bills get made into laws. I have a proven track record of success at doing that. I have a proven track record of organizing in my community. And I have also professional experience that's relevant. I spent 13 years as an environmental scientist. I was immersed in all kinds of environmental investigations and studies with insurance cost recovery and pollution studies, all kinds of different things. And I think I will bring that experience to my goals with regards to climate change and climate resiliency. So I really think it comes down to experience.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to just say one thing. The word experience is certainly a big word, something that I've encountered, of course, being at the younger age I am and campaigning, walking around the district and talking to voters. What I'd like to ask everyone that's listening is, are you satisfied with the experience that's been at the State House? I certainly am not. I feel there's an opportunity here to make some real change. Things have been happening the same way in Rhode Island for a long time. And I just feel it's an experience at the State House that's not in the public interest. And so I aim to change that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to throw in one more question to both of you, beginning with Ms. Boylan. What issue would you like to talk about now that we have not already focused on tonight?
There's so many good ones. I think we should talk about mental health. So may I?
You may.
Okay. Rhode Island is in the midst of a mental health crisis, and it's really important that we devote resources to fixing that problem. It has touched our community most relevantly here in Barrington, and it actually touches so many Rhode Islanders. It's really important. All Rhode Islanders deserve access to quality and affordable mental health professionals and support. So we need to do two things. We need to help prevent mental health crises, and we need to increase access to appropriate services. We need to be funding additional mental health staffing in our schools. A bill to do so passed the Senate last year, but not the House. The biggest challenge for community organizations that are trying to meet the needs of the work of the community in terms of mental health is workforce shortage. We need to be increasing reimbursement rates for mental health services to compete with neighboring states. I'd like to use 30 seconds, please. And to keep providers of these services here in state. It also has the effect of helping other small businesses stay here in Rhode Island. Our Medicaid rates have not gone up for 9 years. We need to fix that. We need to invest in higher public ed so we graduate the right kind of professionals in these fields, and that we develop incentives to keep them here in Rhode Island. We need to pursue more interstate telehealth counseling services, and we need to create quality psychiatric residential treatment facilities for adults and children here in Rhode Island. Mental health concerns are also the reason that I strongly believe we need a law that will mandate secure firearm storage, and we also need suicide barriers on our bridges.
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
Yes, thank you. I completely agree with suicide barriers on our bridges. That's a must. I also agree with, again, mental health and more resources to that. It's something that it's been talked about in session a lot, and then it seems to stop after that. So again, pushing it through, pushing more helpful legislation through would certainly be a focus. I also like to touch upon affordable housing. I know that's been a bit of a concern, at least locally here in the community for District 66. And I think when it comes to affordable housing, we have to be smarter. And really what that means to me is it costs too much to build in Rhode Island. There's many hurdles and burdens that make the cost of construction astronomical. And I believe that we need to have a comprehensive affordability plan for Rhode Island, which includes public transportation and other public amenities, as well as overall infrastructure. It can't be done in pieces. And we have some good affordable housing projects in the state, but it really comes down to where and how we place them, and they need to be accessible.
Thank you. Okay, that will wrap up the question and answer period. We're going to move to closing statements. Ms. Boylan, you'll go first. You have up to 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Great, thank you so much. I want to again thank the League of Women Voters and the East Bay Media for organizing this forum. I think that I am the best person for this job because I am an experienced, proven leader who can effectively represent the needs and values of the people of Riverside and Barrington. Over the past decade as an advocate, I've had a front row seat into the lawmaking process. I have been in the trenches at the State House, testifying, advocating, organizing, and building strong coalitions. I know how bills become law, and I have seen firsthand what can be accomplished when people make their voices heard. When elected, I will hit the ground running and work hard for my community. To the voters of Riverside and Barrington, I ask you for your votes. Please send me to the General Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, you have up to 2.5 minutes if you'd like.
Thank you. Again, yes, I'd like to thank the League of Women's Voters, Scott Pickering, moderator, and everyone for listening in and being engaged. I feel the best path forward for District 66 in our state is by having an independent voice serving their constituency and bringing a fresh perspective to the worn out methods at the State House. I aim to bring back the serve in public service, and I will listen to everyone. I'm not beholden to a certain side or any special interests. I am a voice for you. I encourage everyone to vote in this election, and I hope that I've earned your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. That concludes the forum. Do we have any closing remarks?
Please vote.
Please vote. Okay. Hold on, I'm going to stop our recording. Thank you, everyone.